All right, we're cruising along. We're nearly in the home straight. Just sort of going, hitting the corner now. No. So we're a little bit ahead of time, which is good. And I'm going to introduce our next speaker so we can keep moving along. Our next speakers are from Batchelor Institute, and they're going to be talking about the importance of linguistic analysis for language workers. So we've got Dr. Nicoletta Romeo and Paola Fischer. So please join me in welcoming them.
Hello. Firstly, would like to acknowledge that we're here on Larrakia country. Would like to pay our respect for Larrakia people, past, present, and emerging. And would also like to extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people present here today. Can you hear me all right? Louder. I'm not a teacher. Like this? Okay. I don't have a teacher. So today we would like to showcase the importance of linguistic analysis.
And then your voice will go into them.
So now I don't have to. Is this okay like this? Would like to showcase the importance of linguistic analysis for language workers. First, we're going to talk about where you can acquire these skills that we think are important, and then later we're going to have a little linguistic mock lecture by Nicoletta. So then first, where can one acquire these skills? We have here at CDU 3 courses: the Diploma of Indigenous Language Work, the Associate Degree in Indigenous Languages and Linguistics, and the Bachelor of Indigenous Languages and Linguistics. And why we are presenting this is because these courses are CDU courses, but they're taught by Bachelor staff. So namely Nicoletta, Catherine, who is not here right now, she's coming later, and myself. The only difference between these 3 courses is how many units are required to complete each one of them. So a diploma goes for 1 year, studying full time, and the associate degree would go 2 years, and the bachelor 3 years. But they all draw on the same units, the same pool of units. So how do these courses support Indigenous language work? All 3 courses are designed to support Indigenous and non-Indigenous students in their work in the context of Australian Indigenous languages, and the units equip students with the necessary linguistic tools to analyze, document, maintain, or revitalize their languages. I wrote down here a few areas of work. Language centers, the obvious one. Many of our students are already working in language centers, schools, or have their own maintenance and revitalization projects, but some just notice that they need some more skills, a little bit more of linguistics or other tools and strategies to further strengthen their language. We also put down interpreting and translation services. We are very aware that we're not providing training in translating or interpreting, but we think linguistics can enhance and help translation work and interpreters. Here are a few units. These are only the linguistics or the applied linguistics units that we're teaching. There are also other units part of the degree, but these are the ones that we are teaching. The first 3 here are core units in all 3 courses. The first one provides students with the basic foundations of linguistics. We have morphology, syntax, phonetics, phonology. So we're looking at sound pattern, how are sounds produced with our mouth, and also how do sounds combine, how do they change according to the sounds that come before and after. Word formation, so what are the different bits that make up a word, and which information do these bits carry? And this is a little bit what Nicoletta is going to be talking about later. in more depth, and sentence structure and so on. Then linguistics 2 obviously covers the same topics, it just goes a bit deeper, and students learn to apply these skills and analyze language. Language and society is an introduction to sociolinguistics, so language in context. How does language, or why do we speak differently depending on the context, depending on who we're talking to, when we're talking, in which setting we're talking, and maybe what can this tell us about the social structure of its speakers. Resource production and use, mainly looking at students are exposed to different audio recording and data recording tools, and these, so when people want to record their elders, or not only elders, just any speaker, to either document or analyze the language, but these audio tools can, of course, also be used for resource production, so you can embed these audio files in a dictionary app or in a talking book, things like that. Language acquisition is also a popular one. There we just look at theories of first language acquisition, second language acquisition. What's the difference between a child acquiring a language and a person, an older person, or an adult learning language, acquiring language? What does it look like? Sorry, I missed. I wanted. No, so that's language acquisition. I go back to the other one. And what does language acquisition look like in different language scenarios across Australia, where languages are maybe acquired not at first language or second, language, or depending on how strong the language is in the community. The other one I wanted to highlight is the Indigenous. Not this one. Indigenous language maintenance and revitalization. So there, as we all know, due to colonization, there are different language scenarios, different language situations. Across Australia, some languages are spoken fluently by all members of the communities, others are not that strong anymore, doesn't have many speakers left, and we look at, we talk about the vitality of a language, and we look at that and how to assess that, and then which strategies are most effective to further strengthen the language, depending on the situation it is in. And then just the last one, language center management. This is a new unit we just developed. We're going to be teaching it this semester for the first time, and this looks at, as the name says, is how to manage a language center, which are the roles that a language center might have, and which skills does a language center need to do the job that it wants to do. Then I just want to talk about the electives, because they're a nice way. In all 3 courses, there are electives, so you can specialize, all students. I say you because I assume you're all going to be enrolling, because it's so interesting. There you can further explore the area of your interest, or you can do something completely different. You could, many, I think, non-Indigenous students take the first one, learning an Indigenous language. At the moment, we are offering Aranda, Yolngu Mata, and or Yolngu, one of the Yolngu languages, and Biningunwok, as Kathy talked about earlier. Then we have some of our students are working in schools or want to work in schools, so they can take units from the College of Education. I'm thinking in particular of the 2 units that Janine Oldfield created and is teaching, the learning, and the other one is the teaching Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. Application of this in schools, but it's about that it's school. And then we have research units that just teach students more about research methodologies. And then the last one is an independent study, because many of our students have their own project, they have their own interest, and they just want to work on that. And one of us will then be supervising that. Apart from the degrees, we also are offering now, or the Australian Indigenous Languages Institute is offering a 2-week intensive workshop in July here in Darwin. On offer is the Linguistics for Indigenous Languages 1 that I mentioned earlier, and the Language and Society, and also a 1-week intensive in Introduction to Yolngu Languages and culture. And with this, I'm going to hand over to Nicoletta, who's going to give us a little example of what one can do with linguistics skills.
So, as Paola said, we offer these units in linguistics, and what we normally do with our students is, or what I do, because I teach the more theoretical units in this course, I always introduce my students to language data immediately. This is a very important way of going about transmitting knowledge about language to our students. I always start with language data, and then we move on to the more theoretical tenets that then emerge from the data. And I think that that is the best way of going about working on language. And I have, here I've got a definition of language, which I think is really quite interesting and captivating in a way. Language is a reflection of how we organize and perceive the world. In every language, there are keywords, phrases that act as signposts to the way we think about the world and ourselves. Now, this is a very important fact about language, and we've just seen with, the great interpreters and Aboriginal interpreters from AIS, the complexity of the work that interpreters actually do, and the way in which I myself was an interpreter. We need to look at the two worldviews, and we need to try and transmit concepts from one world to the other and vice versa. This is what we need to do. Obviously, as interpreters and as linguists, as people who work on language, we need to acquire the tools that will allow us to do so. And this is a very important part of, obviously, our work. Providing people with tools in order for them to be able to analyze language and to find this connection between these two worlds, which is so important. And obviously, each language presents a view of the world that is unique. And there is much to learn from the way in which languages communicate reality. And to this purpose, I would like to talk about a particular form, and I will call it a suffix. This is a technical term that we use to identify a bit of language which attaches to the end of words. In this case, I've chosen this form because this is one of the suffixes that you will find across languages, Aboriginal languages in Australia. It's pervasive. I mean, you will find this form in the north, in the south, east, west of the country. And this is really an important, form that conveys quite a few concepts. And it's the same form which conveys, and we will see which concepts in different languages. But I've chosen two languages. One is Muruwari, which was spoken in northwestern New South Wales and southern Queensland, so probably on the border between the two states, and Ngaliwuru, spoken in the area, the Victoria River area in the Northern Territory. So if we look first at Muruwari, we have this form gu. I need to specify the fact that gu may also be produced as wu. So depending on the phonetic environment in which it occurs. That is, depending on the sounds that precede, that come before this form. So at the end of the word it attaches to. Now, let's have a look at these examples. And that's where we start, from the data. We have, in the first sentence, we have the form gu attached to store to convey motion towards a place. So the white woman is going to the store. In the second sentence, we have exactly the same form, which conveys a slightly different meaning. That is, a concept. Money, so give me money for bread. That is, for the purpose of buying bread. So we have motion towards a particular place, and we have purpose. It marks purpose. I'm doing something for the purpose of doing something else. In sentence 3, the same form, wu, this time, because of the phonetic environment in which it occurs. The wu in this position conveys benefactive, that is, a particular activity that is done for the benefit of someone. So he's holding the baby for the benefit of the woman. So now we have three concepts. We have motion towards a place, we have purpose, and we have benefit. Same form. In this case, it marks possession. So the small in terms of young of the kangaroo. And this conveys possession. So something that belongs to somebody else. In the last sentence, you have gu as well, again, conveying future time reference. So tomorrow, go, future, fish, future. That is, tomorrow I am going to go fishing. I'm going fishing tomorrow. Now, this is a very interesting view of the various concepts that this form conveys. We have a language which is spoken in a particular part of the country, 5 different specifications, 5 different concepts. And obviously, the most important question, because this is just a description of what the data tell us, but the big question is why? Why is it that this same form conveys 5 different concepts? In what way are these concepts? Are these concepts connected to one another? Are they not? So let's have a look at the other language, Ngaliwewe. Now, here we have another sentence with the same form, wu and gu. The first instance of the form marks the future tense, so future time reference, and the second form means to me, so motion towards. So the same form repeated twice in the same sentence. Now, the translation of this sentence is, why did you not come to me? This is very interesting. Why is it that in English, the event is placed in the past, is referred to as occurred as, the occurrences of this event is in the past, but in this language we have a future marker. Now this is very interesting. In our language, in English and in many other languages, you will have the past form and the negative form put together. Why is it that in this language things work differently? Could you come up with an explanation for that? And yet I'm treating you like my students. Can you come up with an explanation, an idea, a hypothesis about the reason why we have this alternation?
In a different worldview, perhaps it is possible to imagine that we are coming after those things that have come before, perhaps following the footsteps of the elders.
Good. Close.
Maybe in another worldview, time is elastic, so there is no present, past, future.
Getting close.
So to do with the perspective of the speaker, so that the event is regarded as not yet happening, even though for us when we retell in English and a lot of European languages, if we're saying it's happened in the past, it's bang, 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 but from whoever's telling the story, it hasn't happened yet, and this obviously didn't happen because they didn't end up coming. Is that?
You're very close. Actually, I would say that that is, yes, Joanne. Another option, another hypothesis. Sorry? Actually, we have a marker of the future, and the future seems to be organized conceptually along a line. Interestingly, in English and in other languages, time is represented spatially as a line, with the past in the left, the future in the right, with a speaker in the middle. Now, this is a very interesting topic because there's space or time, which is conceptualized as space covered in a certain, with a certain amount of time, directionality, because then we're looking at, as speaker, I would say that the past is behind me. And as a speaker, I'm walking on this line, and the past is behind me, and the future is in front of me. There are other cultures who organize their space and their time differently. And certainly there is a conceptualization of time in a circular way. It happens, definitely so, with certain cultures. Yes?
Can I just say, because I thought this might be the right moment for it, that in the past, the distant past, before the time that we were colonized, as it were, old people in Yirriṉiṉba language, in the Yirriṉiṉba language, Northeast Arnhem land, used to point to tomorrow here, but yesterday there.
Yes.
However, now we have become aware of chronological time as imposed. We now talk about yesterday back there.
That's right. So you have adopted the line, it's called moving ego. Why? Because we have the speaker who moves along a line facing front, and we conceptualize time as moving on this line and heading, towards the future. When we say, even we say the future is ahead of us. Ahead. So we use our body and we use space to conceptualize time again, right? The worst is behind us. Now, these are all examples of what I will show you later, but I can say it now. All examples of metaphor. metaphorical extensions from space to time, from motion to time, right? But now let's go back to our example. If an event is negated, so we say that something didn't happen, it is unknown, in the same way as the future is unknown. So if you look at it from this point of view, from the viewpoint of this community and this language, therefore, you may understand that this makes perfect sense. If something doesn't exist, it's unknown. It's not as if the event has occurred and then it has disappeared somehow. It didn't occur. And therefore, it's unknown. It can't be known, right? And that's why this language and many other languages, this is not uncommon. It's really common. For instance, in languages spoken in Papua New Guinea, you've got all sorts of different alternations in the sense, which, of course, from our point of view as speakers of English, not just English, but other languages similar to English, is a bit, so you're not exactly sure what is going on. But if you then start decomposing, this is a bad term that we use in linguistics to mean if you break down meaning, then that's precisely what you see. And you have to immerse yourself in this new reality, which is the reality of this culture and of this language. So that is the explanation for having a future, and for a sentence that in English instead is conveyed by a past tense, or past time reference. Again, we have the same form again in 7. So he goes for food, for the purpose of finding food. We have, and this is another interesting example of a different way of conceptualizing events or facts in language, or actually I should say in the world. This, again, the same form, gu. This is my father's boomerang. So again, possession of a boomerang. Again, same form. And in 9, we have wu as a marker of the future. And again, we have future and present. So we have a marker of the future and a marker of the present in the same sentence. And again, we may start thinking, well, why is that? Why is that? It's probably a use which is quite similar to the future in English. I will go. Right? We have a form that conveys the future, will, and the form in the infinitive, which is, the default form in the language, go. So maybe there is something there that is similar to the structure that we used to see in English. So, if we want to summarize the different functions of this particular form, and let's remember that these are languages which were spoken in 2 areas of the country, quite far apart, right? So this is the summary of the functions of this particular suffix. So we have motion towards someone or a place or something. Purpose, do something for a purpose. Do something for someone. And in that case, we use the term beneficiary. The person who owns something, possessor. In addition to that, maybe I missed one. Okay. There was, I had an example, I don't know, probably we just deleted it by accident, where the future, the same form, could be translated as future, as the desire to do something, the willingness to do something, and then, of course, the future. Now, as I said before, this is a description of what we see in the language. But when we work with language, we obviously come up with hypotheses, but then we have to explain what is going on. We need to find an explanation for these facts, especially when we try and describe a language and we're trying to understand how it works. So we started from a very concrete meaning or function of the form, which is goal of motion. So we have motion and motion towards. Then we see this form used to convey purpose or the beneficiary of a particular activity. And then, interestingly, we have an extension to possession. So how do we go, from the point of view of meaning, from goal of motion to purpose or beneficiary, and then to possession? Now, we need to understand, we need to explain why is that. Obviously, if I move towards someone, I am doing something, and I'm moving towards someone, I'm moving towards a goal. With purpose and beneficiary, my goal is to move towards someone, or my goal of doing something, and I'm doing it for a particular purpose. Possession, how do we go from purpose and beneficiary to possession? Obviously, if I move something from me to another person, and this person is the receiver, the beneficiary of my motion, of the entity that I'm moving, then it becomes, so the entity is with the goal of motion. So it becomes something that the goal of motion possesses, has. So the step from purpose to beneficiary to desiderative, that is the desire to do something, the willingness to do something, well, it's implied in purpose, isn't it? If I have a purpose, then I also I have the intention of doing something. And then from having the intention, desiring to do something, moving on to future. Why is that? Because, of course, if I desire to do something, something will have to happen. It's something that doesn't exist yet, but I will obtain it if I am willing to do something. If I'm willing, if I desire to do something, I might get that. So this is the semantic path that this particular form followed from a more concrete meaning to a less concrete and abstract meaning. And this is what we probably, and we're unaware of that, we do all the time when we use metaphor. For instance, in English and in practically all languages, we have metaphorical extensions of forms. We say, for instance, in English, we can say, yes, I've spent so much time working on my marking. I'm talking about work as if I were talking about money. Spend time. As we say, obviously, we spend time. Another very interesting example that just popped into my mind now is that obviously as academics and lecturers, we have students applying for extensions all the time, extensions to assignments. Why do we call them extensions? That is a term that is fixed in space. It's an extension. When we talk about, I'm going to do some, an extension to my house. What am I going to do? What I'm doing, what I'm thinking of doing. I'm going to expand the space that is included within the boundaries of the walls of my place to make it bigger. When we apply extension to a deadline, what are we doing? Precisely that, but at a higher abstract conceptual level. So we're doing what we're doing, the extension of the deadline, we extend. So a deadline is seen metaphorically as something that we can extend, expand, whose boundaries can be moved. And really, again, an extension is an extension not in space, but in time. So once again, we have this strong metaphor. Space is time that really that we use constantly in language. In any language, we have many, many examples of metaphor used, and not just as a literary tool in poetry or in narrative, etc. No, we just use it constantly as a way of conveying certain concepts. And we're not aware that we're doing that, really. So I think that, yes, that's it from me at the moment. So I don't know if you have questions that you would like to ask. Yes.
So I work for the Aboriginal Children's Service in Tasmania. So one of the challenges we have is languages that are evolving. One off the top of my head is the Maree, Wurundjeri, West Creole. They're sort of lumped all in together.
Yes.
It's very hard to find interpreters for a specific person. So at the moment we go on an age group, but the dictionaries that are coming out in Wurundjeri, Maree, have they got an end date with the morphing of the languages?
Yes. Well, when you
speak a different language to the hard, they call it hard Wurundjeri, hard Maree. That's the old people. The young ones are using all those languages. They talk in their own language.
And they talk in their, because you see what happens is, and this is a normal process in language. Languages in general change all the time. So we have different varieties, different types of language that emerge from older languages. This happens all the time. In one language, we may have two varieties, one that is spoken by older people, and the variety that is spoken by younger people. Now, these two varieties should, in actual fact, be described, both of them, and have their own dictionaries, have their own descriptions, and see, in what way you can, in a way, combine the two. But really, I think that because the variety spoken by the younger generation is going to become a language of its own. And so it will probably need to be described. It will probably need to have its own lexicon, its own dictionary. And then you would have to, you would need interpreters who specialize in that particular form of language. It is, I'm sure.
The other term that's
new terms she just made up.
Yes.
But it's like understanding the other language, but not being able to talk
Yes.
it, talking your own language, and they understand
Yes.
it. And so that concept.
Yes.
I'm just trying to build jobs. You know what I mean?
Of course. Of course. That's a difficult one, you know, also because the new variety, I'm sure, is obviously in the process of developing, and so it's difficult to narrow down certain forms because, of course, they are in the process of developing. And so I think that ultimately you will get two separate varieties. And in that sense, when the new variety is settled, then it will have its own structures, its own syntax, its own morphology, maybe. And so you will probably need separate interpreters for that. Yes. No, that's okay. Yes.
A question about the example sentence
Yes.
earlier. Why did you not come to me? How did you know that the woo used there was a future marker and not a marker of desire or willingness?
Well, I had to rely on glosses, and the example that I found actually included in Dixon's study of all these different forms. So I have to, I have to trust Dixon in that sense. And I think that, Dixon is Dixon. And so but you see, what is interesting is that the same form is found in other languages. And this is what we do as linguists. You know, we have, if you have studied and worked in linguistics for a fair bit of time, you have experience and you have knowledge of other structures and other languages that show the presence of the same forms. I mean, or forms with the same meaning or function. So in a way, I didn't find that particularly difficult because it is a pattern that keeps repeating itself in Indigenous languages, in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander and languages, and in other languages. So as linguists, what we see is similarities as well as differences. But both are important, of course. You know, it's not just about difference, it's about similarity as well. What time is it? Okay.
Wow, what a session.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll get to our next speaker, which is our second last speaker of the day, Maree Klesch. Maree is from the Batchelor Institute, and it's a real treat to have Maree here today. And she's going to be talking about language revival on the run. Thank you, Maree.
Thank you, and my respect and acknowledgement to the Larrakia people, and thank you for turning on the beautiful dry season weather, much appreciated. And also my respect and acknowledgement to the Casuarina people. I work at Batchelor campus and they are the landowners of that country. I had titled this when we put in our little paragraph, Language Revival, but there is a saying, and for many of the Aboriginal people I work for and with, there's a saying that, some things that have lost should have never been forgotten. But people say their languages have never been forgotten. Their languages have always been with them, but they've been sleeping, and that their language is in their country. And many people have ancestral stories about how their language came from the country, the spirit of the country. And during this presentation, I'll give you some examples of the immeasurable difference of doing language reawakening on country compared to the classroom. The other thing is saying languages, I can look here, hey. The other thing is saying that language on the run. The reason I've said that, I'm going to give a little bit of a case study for Yirriṉiṉba language, which is for us West, but for them East Kimberley language, and mainly that's working with people in Columbia. But there are many people living in Wyndham, Kununurra, or Derby or Mowanjum community as well. And the reason we're on the run is that 75% of the group that are now engaged with this are working full-time. The project was initiated by the Bulkanhawuy Rangers, so they all work full-time. They have very heavy jobs, particularly in the dry season. Other people might be employed by their local government, the Yirriṉiṉba Association, Bulkanhawuy Association, Women Association. So there's only about 25% of the people currently engaged in this activity that are not full-time. The other thing is we really didn't have any resources. Well, we did have a few, and we'll have a look at that. Those of you that know me know that I can talk, so I'm doing my acknowledgements and thank yous first, because I might not make it. I want to really thank the Wadea people that I have worked with for a long time, and particularly this woman here, Pinperit Matjalachula, who has been a great teacher for me. I won't be talking about the Wadea languages today, but the elders and some of these people have passed away, have been great teachers, mentors, and really tolerant and understanding in helping me learn the way forward with languages. This group of people here are some of the elders that we work with in Mowanjum, and I've worked with these people for a number of years, and their languages are Gawura, Nairn, and some Wanambi speakers. And here's a list of the other people that I'd like to thank and acknowledge with gratitude for their contribution to language revival, maintenance and documentation, and being good teachers for me. Just quickly about, I work for the Centre for Australian Languages and Linguistics at Batchelor Institute, and I'd also like to acknowledge my colleagues and friends here, and those in Alice Springs. Doing language work can be a hard gig, but it's wonderful being part of a team that is supportive, encouraging and has vision. At Wadea, the projects that we're currently working with, we're working with these languages here. At Mowanjum, we work with these languages, but recently have got a partnership with Yirriṉiṉba Rangers at Columbia, so we're working on the Mitchell Plateau and there. Also in Central Australia, we have two lecturers who are working in Warlpiri, Arundel and Peradum, and you'll see a little bit of that. Maningrida, we had a very significant project there, but the linguist that was working there, Margaret Carew, has now gone to the Education Department. But we've just recently started again working with the Jinang language there. Again, most people here will know about both ways philosophy, but I think it's important to start and remember how we do this. This is an iterative or a circular process. It's like the process of our lives. We learn, we revise, we move on. Something new comes along and we have to change how we're going forward. This diagram looks at how we work with graduates over the years, how we work, how Batchelor Institute, our students' communities merge together to find a side of modernity or common ground. And you'll see that this is a circular process that we follow through all of our works. It requires things like respect, tolerance, and understanding diversity. Really the main thing you have to have is respect, and it will be quite easy for you if you can respect and not have authority over everything, respect everybody's knowledge and the skills that they bring with them. The methodology that we're using in our language projects to bring forward our philosophy is that we're using participatory action research. This has been used for a long time by Batchelor Institute and at many universities and schools now around the world. It is a pretty simplistic way forward, but again, to be successful, you have to live this journey. You just can't read about it and think that you're going to go do it. You have to engage with others and make this part of your journey of learning from others while you're doing this. And then it can be okay. So it's what do we already know? What do we want to learn more about? How are we going to get there? What did we learn? And what do we want to learn next? And then I'm just on the end going to show you a few other things that grow out of having an action research model. I've chosen to we engage with different language reawakening projects or language maintenance projects. I've chosen the Wanambi language activities that is partnered with the Ungun Rangers but many other people in that community, because this is the newest project that we've been involved in and probably the most challenging. So what do we already know? We know that we had a lot of questions. We knew that we were all a little bit nervous, and we also knew that this is something that we really want to do this. So the first question is, do we have any speakers or partial speakers? Everybody's, oh no, oh maybe them, or maybe them. Nobody's putting their hand up, so we're finding out what we have. In what I show you today is not a compile of one cycle. There's a few cycles in here. So we now have 3 elderly women that spoke Wanambi when they were children, but they live miles away. There is no Skype. These old ladies are not using Skype, so planning and preparation can be quite difficult and time-consuming. And we didn't really find out that these women had a very strong passive knowledge of their language because they spoke until they were about 5 years old, and they're all about the same age, until they went into the mission schools. So their language was pretty good. I mean, in one workshop, the last workshop, we're trying to patch up this language again, and so that people can start having conversations. And this lady says to me, oh, that doesn't sound quite right. And I said, but you said you don't speak Wanambi. And she goes, oh yeah, when I was a kid. Like, yay, okay, got some help here. Then we've got one woman who did some training at Batchelor probably 30 years ago and hadn't worked with language again. And that's Rosalind Karadata. And her mother worked with Therese Carr that did her master's in Wanambi. And so she's got incredible passive knowledge, and she can write her language quite easily, but doesn't really speak, hasn't had that opportunity for a long time. Then we have quite a few people that can listen to a bit when we listen to the old recordings, and we have people that know bits and pieces. The Wanambi people are not living on their country at Kalambaroo. It's just across the river. The country is Bila country, or sometimes people are referred to as Gwenny, and that's the language that's recently been started teaching in the school, which is great. What resources did we have? Well, we had a couple of theses and lots of word lists and some recordings. Working in Mowanjum, which is about 15k out of Derby, we had collected some word lists, and then we did searches for resources. There was a group of us doing this to get permissions. We got Therese Carr's work and her audio tapes. I'm not going to say all the people that were the informants, if you like, or who did the recordings, because anyways, I will say some people. Eric Vasily and Howard Coates. The best recordings are Howard Coates. They're the oldest, really clear and very easy. Some have transcripts, some don't. And then we had to go getting permissions from ARDS and families to retrieve that data and analysing those recordings. Part of that process is what do we want to learn more about? And we did negotiate this by phone. So the rangers would, have their discussions, and then we'd talk with a couple of the old ladies at Mowanjum about what is it you want to do. What do you want to do in your language? So firstly, family and relationships. Then many of these people are professionals. They work with rangers. They have lots of tourists coming in. They have an incredible, they have tourist cards, like passes. So they're talking to rangers. The rangers are talking to people, and they wanted to be able to introduce themselves as professionally as other professionals do, like anthropologists or linguists or musicologists or whatever. So they wanted a professional introduction. And the other thing is that they wanted to be able to talk to their country, not welcome to country, although it was called welcome to country. So to make sure, it goes back to the earlier comment that people get their language from their country. They didn't want to be talking to their country in Creole or English because, you know, one of the comments was, we don't know if our country's understanding us. So they wanted to be able to do that in language. So there's a lot of preparation in this. So we work for weeks once people say what they want to do, trawl through the resources, talk to elders, find out if we can get some samples together. So we get our list together, relationships, estate names. We search the audio recordings and time mark them and see if we can take excerpts out, and we save those, you know, into little sets for people. And then we take all of that back to the elders and have a go again, and then we just get started. It is a bit scary, you know, because we hadn't done this before and everybody was nervous about it, the language team, the elders and us. So family first, that's pretty great. That photo there shows it's after smoko on the first day of the first workshop. It's about 40 degrees, 80% humidity, no fans. So yes, it was great. But we started with a small group here, and then by smoko, more people started coming. Then after that, more people started coming. They started to go get their families, you know, they're bringing people in from the aged care, which is just nearby in the wheelchairs. And, you know, you're thinking this is great, but you're really feeling the pressure, you know, like you're under scrutiny. But people just took to this because, of course, it's something they know. And although people might not be using their relationship terms all the time, they had their elders with them and they could get through that. Then about talking about myself, introducing myself. When we started, we didn't have this. You know, isolating things in old recordings and not having a first language speaker makes it very hard. This was made after the second workshop to help us, you know, getting the word for country and for totem wasn't that hard. But because people hadn't been speaking their language for a long time, a lot of the young people didn't know. They didn't know their Aboriginal name, or what they call bush name. They didn't know their totem. You know, they didn't know what their skin name was. So during that day, people were talking to each other and helping each other. And unbelievably, but true, last year Columbaroo didn't have mobile access. You know, it was a plug-in, you know, at your computer. So they did have NBN, but no mobile access, or 2 landlines, 2 public phones. So after the workshop that day, people are lined up at the shop getting phone tickets, and there's a line of people ringing up their relations down the Gibb River Road, Wyndham, Derby, finding out this information, talking to each other, so the next day they could come in and patch up the things that they wanted to know about their own identity that they hadn't been talking about. Then we worked out how we were going to do this. Rosalind Karadata, who I said had the passive knowledge, helped us work these sentences out, and our linguist is Thomas Saunders. So while people are busy talking about that and thinking about how they're going to say it, we're busy trying to work out what this sentence patterns or little sentences are going to be. So people put that together, then they come back and they write it with the gloss. It's an oral language program, but that didn't work. We saw people, you know, getting pens and writing on their arm. So then we started providing workbooks and paper resources. So they did a gloss and then get it into their first language. And their goal was, by the end of the week, to be able to introduce themselves without reading or looking at any of their notes. And everybody sort of got there. Well, 2 people ran away. But,
I'm recording now.
Dar Williams, Penya, Ngangi, Gambra, Ngaya Bara, Gambra, Ngaya Pamela, Ngaya G Manbat, Ngaya Agalangori.
Is it?
Good on you. It's pretty shy, but he did it.
Okay, so I'm recording now.
We have, everyone's got their phones, and we have a few iPads, and we have a couple of SLR cameras. And, you know, generally myself or the linguist might start with that, but very soon the young people take it over. And, you know, so since the first workshop. I've never had to do that again.
I'm recording.
Okay, then we come to the part about the evaluation. I just want to show you here about how this cycle carries on, how we learn, what did we learn, what did we do well, what do we need more of, and, you know, how can we improve ourselves next time and what do we want to do? I can't read this on here, I got the wrong glasses, but people wanted to learn about, you'll see they're generally done in groups, men and women, sometimes they break down to smaller groups. They wanted to learn about their song lines, and they wanted more languages, meaning they wanted sentences. They wanted more elders involved for us to find the funding to bring people from other communities, which we did. And they wanted to do the next workshop on country. Even though we say that, we can only do workshops in country during the dry season. It's a very isolated place and hard to get to. When we saw this one here, like, we want to do more song lines, you know, I said to the men, look, there's nothing, I can't help you with that. You know, it's not going to be part of what we can find out to help you. You have to go talk to your own families for that. But then we got our phone call from our mates at Mowanjum Arts Centre, where we also work, saying they just got funding from the Commonwealth for a Yirriṉiṉba, a song and ceremony project, and would we do the language work? Like, how good is that? It's like winning lotto. So on the next workshop, I put this bunch of photos in here to show you that when you're doing language work, and we're going to be making resources to support this, you know, whether they're online or print or whatever, always take your camera. Give people cameras, iPads, phones, take as many photos as you can, because you don't know what you're going to need. And this is just to show you that we did do the next workshop at Wanneroo on People's Country for the dry season. But on the run, so the rangers had to do their burning, you know, and other jobs. They had to see the tourists in the morning. So we had a schedule, you know, to sell the tickets. We had a schedule where people would come in groups, men or women, and the women rangers would do that. So they're still working on their job and coming out. It's very hard to get release time for them, not because they're not committed and don't want to, but, you know, these are their responsibilities and their jobs. So we talked about what we already knew from the last workshop. Then what did we want to have more about? And then how are we going to do that? So we got to Wanneroo, we got that phone call with the money, and then we started working with we already work with Mowanjum, and they invited us to join in the language team to help document the language, the body painting, and the songs. We're also very lucky that Sally Trelawney, a musicologist, had done a lot of work and sent us you know, a big bunch of Yirriṉiṉba for them. So at this workshop, people wanted to start talking sentences. So we'd been through the audio recordings and worked with elders prior to that to make up some examples of sentences. So how do we add a verb? You know, how do we add a pronoun? How do I talk about what I'm doing? And how do I talk about what I'm doing with others? By this workshop, I never touched an iPad or an iPhone. The young people manage it all, you know, like I say to the young girl, excuse me, can you show me how to drop air again? And she goes, oh, Grandma, I showed you that last time, let me do that. All right, cool. So they manage all of that. And at the end of the day, they compile everything into folders for each person. We have already compiled their songs. We've already compiled the master audio files and the excerpts that we've taken out for the sentences we're going to try and construct. And each day we compile what the participants do. And we have these little bracelet memory sticks, and we put everybody's stuff on there, all their preparation, all their notes, and whatever they do individual. There's group work, but individual work. And at the end of each week, we repatriate everything back to the community. So here's a young girl. This is her first workshop. So working with rangers, people wanted to talk about the country, say what the names of the different types of the country. So we just started with talking about different features. This is a river, this is a tree, this is rocks, these are rocks. Then people wanted to talk about together. So we are walking, so adding a verb and, you know, adding another pronoun. We are walking on the road, we are walking to the road. They didn't do skipping, but, you know. And these are the guys. Earlier I mentioned that about the difference from country. These men, when we were working in Columbaroo, barely said a word. This man here, Richard Caradata, who is a senior man and his mother had worked with Therese Carr, he didn't even come half of the time. But when we're on country, these guys were just deadly. They really took it up. Richard took a leadership role, and I asked him, what's the difference? Like last time you weren't even there half the time. And he goes, well, as I'm on my country, I've got my spirit. Now I can do it. And he was just really brilliant. And the difference between, for the men in particular, being on country was outstanding. This is a 5-minute video. I think I've still got time. This is about how the Yirriṉiṉba came together, working with the art centre, the Mowanjum Art Centre, and putting in 3 lots of money to get there. So the Mowanjum Art Centre, the Ongun Rangers, and the Mowanjum Language Project. This is why you want to go with rangers. They've got guns. You get well fed, you know. They got cars, they got choppers, generators.
Hey, one night the rainmaker is got to be in the center. Like this is the wind, you know. I used to watch my dad do this. Every time there's robbery, I used to sit down next to him and watch him do this.
This is Richard speaking, the guy that had the red hat. Can't see a little bit long a little bit.
My name is Margaret Pimoa, and I'm in the country where my husband come from, and as well as my grandmother has shared some part in this coming up to country with their elders, learning language, learning their dance, and knowing who their tribes are, where they come from, and who they are. It's kind of good practice of having to get away and catching up on cultural stuff. And I think enjoying with kids, they need to know more of their culture as well as their education. So these things we call Balmara.
Just to fill in, because I can't
Wanambi people always had it. And the Derby side. Now we kind of be sharing together and to catch up where they've actually left off, you know. So it's good that we come together like this and share this opportunity, and it makes us healthy in our mind and body.
You ready?
We had a professional filmmaker, but he took the work of everybody there, the young people, anybody with a camera, and put it together.
Oh, with this white paint, you meant to have like wool, you know?
I'll just wait till we see a little bit of the young people reawakening their Yirriṉiṉba. This all happens over a week. It's pretty impressive. plus we're doing a language workshop, plus the rangers are birding and working on their country.
This story is about travelers. They were mailmen carrying messages taking the whole day. They're going from tribe to tribe carrying messages.
I'm just going to go along because the point of showing you some of that was how when you're working with different agencies, you can get really outstanding outcomes if you are willing to be respectful of each other, tolerant, support each other with your other skills and pool your resources. And it's also how things grow out of that. So this was before we had WANALA, the West Australian and Aboriginal Language Alliance and Top End Language Alliance last year. But the message sticks, we had started on that before, and I'll show you a little bit about it. And some of the men that were there that were going to be involved in that workshop said, oh yeah, didn't we used to have a message stick song? And they went and found it and brought it back to here. So these good things go together. Again, this is the evaluation, men and women's. So this is the second part of the cycle and what they wanted. And then we go on and we do that again. I've run out of my time, so I'm just going to show you again. This is kind of how we put together the sentences. Down here, this is Rosalind Caradata and Thomas Saunders, the linguist. These are the old women that said they didn't know language but got pretty good passive knowledge up the back helping us. We're in the courthouse. We've got the courthouse this time, wet season, great. And people are putting together what they want and helping each other. There's a men's group around the back here. And in the meantime, while we're on the run, we do a lot of preparation, so it's not as if we don't have anything. But then when people say what they want next, Thomas and Rosalind go through the audio tapes and pull out little clips for us. And so in the next session, I'll help put that together to get some, examples for people, and then we'll start parsing, putting in different verbs, different pronouns, talking about different things. Because this is where people wanted to come to. They want a conversation. So how are we going to get that started? And finally, on the last page, good things that come out of doing this language work that wasn't easy, but is on a really good pathway. We're still scared. We're still not 100% sure what we're going, but we know that we can do it. This young girl here, pointer, Shantae Charles, she is one of our top IT people here now. That, I don't do anything with them when the workshop's with them. She manages it all. She drops air for me. She compiles it, puts it onto these memory sticks. And out of that, we also have taken people to do app training. And this is Vanessa Farrelly. She was a student of ours, one of our graduates, and she's now an academic staff member in Alice Springs, working on her own language program in a family group and building their own apps and doing their own thing. So Vanessa has some linguistic units. Shantae hasn't. Shantae doesn't speak her language or read it right, but she's right up there as a team member, managing, engaged in language all the time and making mashups for her own community. So that was the message stick that came out, and the group of men that did that at WANALA. Stanley's not here, but Stanley Rankin was one of those men. And this is like just people starting to revisit and reawaken how they did the message sticks. This is Moinjum, a bit of Gawura in there, and what kind of symbols people had used, a little prototype, until these guys made these collective ones and individual ones, and they're from all of the West and WA. And thank you very much, and that's my office at Yirriṉiṉba.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you so much. We're going to Okay. You didn't see any of that. All right, so the final speakers today are from the ARDS Aboriginal Corporation, and they are Joy Bulkanhawuy, Gawura Wanambi, Yirriṉiṉba Dhurrka, and Hannah Harper. So welcome to those speakers.
Hi everybody. Good afternoon. Atungurungunya til malarangan nakun maliam wangatang melaja kuri wangapel urungo ngatilingo kadiang balaga tol balayut tamarkiga Larakia Yolmo, Larakia Mitki Yolmo, Mala.
Firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge the first people of this place, the Laraki people, the elders from many, many years ago, the people now and those still to come.
Now Mara, presentation na kun now Dhurrka pundol now jama yang berdarok amara uri bermak na itu baik Dhurrka na kun ningatil makan nangal yan ba yo yan bukan now ko wangay na kun nawe sorry Now ko wangay na kun yan tunupayam na kun linyo to kazal matta ko yon ko na kun mga yon ko rin to ang kangain to linyo lang to matta bel mam diang nya hana ja to na hana apa ngara Gawura adon jaga Joy Bulkanhawuy.
We're going to start our presentation today in our own language, in Yirriṉiṉba, and I'm going to do my best to interpret today. Is this volume okay or not okay? I'm getting some yeses and some nos.
Yo.
Should we try that?
You can go up a little bit more.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ma alamuri na.
Let's begin.
Yo ngurungon lemtual dole na kun presentation na madole makana metole kamro malay.
First of all, we're going to start with these points that you'll see on the screen in English.
Yo, Wanambi ngay dole matay anapurong. Kayul kong Bulkanhawuy.
Where do our languages come from and who actually gave them to us?
Muni Dhurrka ngay na kun ngaray manawin to joyo. Ka tual malay ngay na kun kamroj malaya to ali yung ngokoro ka puludo ali balanda kun na kun darok koro.
In answer to Joy's questions, you'll see the points up on the screen, first in Yirriṉiṉba and on the right in English.
Yo di pali na kondarok nanukal ne Dhurrka ero left modal blau na ngurakal chal prai ngor piang ngai kadara kam akon balai muni Dhurrka ero ngai wanang ngor gayol kong wanang ngor ngai.
So you'll see where it comes from, that it is foundational, that it is since the beginning of time.
Tuwalang ay bigyan ka tara na kon duden nenengo loko nenengo.
That it is eternal, it's permanent, it's unchanging.
Jal kring ay.
It's foundational. Something inherited, born and bred. Given by the Creator Spirit. Are both moieties, Dua and Yirriṉiṉba moieties, existing in those languages. And the many, many clans of our area. That Creator Spirit gave us separate, distinct languages and minds, knowledge. All those years ago, he gave us the very highest registers of our language, the original language. And all of this was for a purpose. What was the main purpose, do you think? For learning?
Pukmako na purong yamar koleo, mana purong ala palmireo, mana purong urongo, mana purong del kororo.
But who for? For everybody. For our children, for our adults, for even our elders, lifelong learning. Also for communication. For understanding and recognition.
Yirriṉiṉba.
Who for? For everybody.
Julam agachal akal milkum ripual yolmual.
We want to show a way of being and model a way of working for other Yirriṉiṉba in our approach.
Dhurrka tau
and sharing processes and stories with Yirriṉiṉba.
Marto
to really give everybody something to think about.
Yirriṉiṉba.
How?
Birka Enrai. Birka Endo.
Daruk to Bill Marandarai.
So we make, sorry, I skipped one there, didn't I? How? By making our very best attempt, and in translation. We reach out as close as we can. We get close. Sometimes in translation we even speak circuitously on purpose. We have ways of working that show assistance and advocacy in translation. We're wary of impartiality. Through our language, we're very careful to represent both sides and understand that we bring our own subjectivity. We're not a good judge in the middle.
We puna perung daruk marki malain dara anapurung Amerika ngol mala.
We've also been working with our songs and recordings of songs.
We puna perung oli jama jamar kuliwal. School ngor university wangangor bala miringor.
We have been working with children in the school, sometimes at the university, and especially at home, anywhere.
Ana purung daruk ya daruk mana purung dol nam ana purung mit daruk nam berkuat warpam. European ngolongai ngoni jal kering wana purunggal. Buk panai ngolongai pegoroper.
We have so many different languages with us, and they all come from those foundational stories, all those many, many years ago.
You katawartun dia ngai ngoli taruk dia ngunalwang ang ngana prungal ga jamang ngale ngor palangana prungoli ni ngana priol ngwal jama mirmala kabalanda wal ngana purung palanga mga mayuna jaman wirakaina ripunguli ngai ngali on radio lil ripungai ngoli ngali on resources na napunguli jama ripungai ngoli ngora rirakai ngana puro marigiti nyawe ngana punguli ka kuro par radio kuro par resource kuro ka sometimes ngana puli marichi ganina on the ground people gal.
So even though language begins in the home and the family setting, those stories and songs do come into our workplace where we prepare them for distribution and for other people's benefit and for learning. And so that's where the resource production begins. And that's where things are loaded and broadcast on Yirriṉiṉba radio, or some resource comes out to teach and instruct other Yirriṉiṉba or even Balanda.
Yo ga ripun muka ngana projama ga rumbal puizawo. Purang ay diang balangura ka dictionary ngurangai kangura diang bala. Palanya mala. Iruwar pa mga napulunguli nguli jama nguli Yirriṉiṉba koro. Kanina napulunguli ramba ng jama mir mala Yirriṉiṉba ka balanda. Pala na purungole bilmaraman. Mata into English, kayo mo mata.
So one long-term project has been the dictionary of anatomy and pathology, which has been a project of Yirriṉiṉba staff and Malanda staff working together to write and then translate information about the body and clinical care and record. Did you say that? And recording.
And it's also on the app
and it's turning into the app which you can download very soon through app stores, so anyone in the health professions and interpreters be able to reference that. So
yoga ripomuka ngana prungule nina chama milmala na purdwalaur dia kamarangal amalang marambulu dokar menmak to sit with young people gal train them adokar menmak yallangomio your generation go.
Yeah, part of our work has been also to make sure that there are new people coming into ARDS to learn alongside senior workers like Kamarang here, Gawura, and Joy Bulkanhawuy.
Yo, dia kuidarok pibolo darok mana pando nakon mana prongyama mana pulina kun yo maram repongor wale guru panana puroin bil mana nakun bingol to mulkurongor bil maram English ya ko mulkuroin abalangana prongal darok.
We do receive some we do receive some contracts at ARDS to do translation, both small jobs but also the large jobs like the Romeo Dictionary app.
Yoga ripon mo kana pwede marichigan ni na elders kalwalangal na kon homelands kabulo do karbuma maram ka do recordings with your tajamar pole jama milmala na kon jumboloko kapananaki marana prung tajama milmada.
Two of our trainees at Yirriṉiṉba have been recording with elders on homelands. And so that's part of one of those large language documentation projects. Jimboloko and Bananaki, that's Jimboloko in the picture that you can see.
Yo bulu muning nagaling kana kun muning muning rumbal puina tao rumbal puina app edwali ang ka akun tarokul doala
It's important to note that the Romeo Dictionary app, for example, has been translated not only from English to Yirriṉiṉba, but between Yirriṉiṉba languages as well. So that when you open this app, a person from Dual background, for example, Jambarpuengo or Duala Gumat or Dango Galpo, can hear their own clan language in that app.
Yoga wari puna purmakin na kun jama bingri unribli tukar mala elmrangal kan bingor English kunga bala yolngol kur kan yakwe angal na kun toli malanya ku malanjoli ngoyngol na garamat pangali boy family violence gambling betoli mala.
It's really important that our translation work branches into areas of everyday life to help other people. And so you'll see these examples of projects here that ARDS employs translation principles and also those deeply entrenched values of advocacy and assistance and support in all of our language projects and community development and health related and social services and advocacy. I did add some words there. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yo, ribunya itu karmalay nakon. Daw malay ka ungalit malay. Daw malay ka ungalit malay nakon. Nagprograma nakon. Nakon wali ngambi uingon ni ngambi wat burmala jay kulong pudaw unal jama kadaruk malay ngunali.
Part of this is also representing our stories and our ways of seeing the world for the information of the rest of Australia. For example, the film projects Ngambi that premiered last year and Wata Burmalala and how Yirriṉiṉba understand the cyclone phenomenon.
Yo diali malangana purong na kon daruk ya malalika kare na kon Romeo malangome matta na purong dol Yirriṉiṉba matta diali malangome lega da kare Romeo malangome na kon unirangatil lakrangal na kon wangari yung ay grupo ngara purong ngay pawangari yung ni na purong ngay jama uni marman doan ngay riken.
So in all of these ways, we reflect the sacredness of our languages as they were given by the creator spirit, our tribes, Dhurrka and Yirriṉiṉba, and the very strongly held foundations that still inform our everyday life today.
Ayo, nguni bilin akon ngatili ako yang yakadal ngay wangkat jadar buk maktukawa nga arkwait. Yung ngay papuro nan ngugana yan daruk. Yung ngay papuro nan ngugana yan daruk. Yung ngay papuro nan ngugana yan daruk kurupanawi.
And it was all given as distinct languages for different clans. And so we always respect this. Each person, who are you? Here is your language. Who are you? Here is your language. And so on.
Yo palanya nakon ngara. Malayndol marango kadarok ngaraku marango yan.
So for myself, I'm a Marango man and my language is Marango.
Angay dual ka jambar pungo. Kali-kali.
Yo maranjol ka jambar pungo senior woman kadarok ngaraku jambar pungo yan.
And Bulkanhawuy is a senior Jambarpungu lady whose language is Jambarpungu.
Yirriṉiṉba dual nabarum gurja jal kri gurja ngonyo ngai mangari rolang mala. Maree gutara ngorum Yirriṉiṉba kadal nawin nakon jaman.
And in our work we continue to relate as Maree Gutara as maternal grandparent clan in clan relationship.
Oni belajar kering orang ngatil mabangari ong nori ong ngangal dokar kuni ganya ko yang alia Maree Gutara wako gato rom.
And that's the pattern that Nori explained earlier today, where the kinship system can govern our work, even in language work.
Yo, ang oray ngay kadwali di na malangan na prong Yirriṉiṉba lukongor. Ada waktu ngai ka bingung yu binulu kong foundation ngor. Na prung malak, na prung goroto, na prung bookmark na ngai rulang do create na prung.
And it exists in perpetuity. It's in our very foundations. Everything from our skin name system to our given names, our family tree, and even our work.
Yo angay ngoroki ngarato na melkom malangal doon na kun ngay abay uri ako ngay toolbox ya palanya toolbox ngara jama yo ngay kuniyan kahit palanya ngara ka jama marango darok ngara ko ngara Kaya nga tuong ulit na malangal milkum.
So I'm just showing you a little snapshot of my work in Marango. I'm using that program Toolbox to list many of the words of my very own language, Marango. Yeah, Gawura. Yeah. Actually, it's worth noting.
Yung namun ngay ka na yako namun na kurang ngay kamel ko muna lurkon. Yung ngunin matungo yung ngunin namun ang ngay bookmark ngunin matumar namun ngunin ara nirpan balay.
Yes, so if you look down the bottom of that screenshot, you'll only see a few words up on the screen, but if you look down the bottom, you'll see how many words Gawura has been working on. That's that number in the corner is at 1,113.
Kapulori pumalay na kurang nilibli audio collection na kurang ngay Gawura na kurang collection wangay ni daw na kurang marakalik-kalik ako dyan to jam mamada daw na po badoro daw ka urong nga na purong yelil paway ako nanukong daw badoro po.
One story that Bulkanhawuy and Hannah have been working on together is to turn a recording from many years ago into a children's storybook about the Milky Way.
Yo, do ringo ni ngai war pala lakrang dao. It takes a lot of time ngarakal ga kuchan kal ga ni nakaga finding out dokar men makmriti before ngaling yung ni developing jamar koleo now storybooks schools ko baki walal, but we're not finishing yet. We're still doing. Yeah.
It has taken a long time to prepare this story for the children's resource. We're still finishing it off, but a lot of that has been processing, obviously, with the families for that story to be shared with the children.
Yo, kita ada anak-anak perang dalam nawin.
We're nearly finished now.
Yo, yan perlu balai ronge bulan malam perlu ngorong markan matu na ngoli molkul karinya malam doli daw.
I'd like to just go back to where we began so that it has maybe a little more time to sink in for you all.
Yo, ngoni beli tarok mana perang doal. Namun ngaring na purung grupar wangal yung na purung grupar bala wangal nga na purungal bingo yung kawangal nga na purungal dawat kinja.
When the Creator Spirit gave languages, it went very much with the land, and so there is an inseparable relationship between our languages and our land.
Ka purungan na purungan ngoni napunga na kun wanga ngoni nga pulitawar yang abalai ngoni nga napurung na kun ngai senteng language senteng ako ngoni na putubian ngam wana nga napurung language senteng nga napurung ni taro kun ngai wanga napunga ngoni li ngatil ngai ngoni yan bok mai ngai pi wangario ngoni na pulitawar yang ngai balai sentel kuna na puli.
So for us, our language centre is that environment that we are born into, our place and country and our families. That's the meaning of a language centre.
Yo, pilin muka.
Yo, pilin muka daw ay unaka. Yoro, muni ngay lakrangal, mani, language centre ngay muni lakrangal. Muni din, anapurnguli paki, Ukmak ngol muni ngay guru parangana purun rumwa tangoy. Uri po nga na purong uli bilmaram. Na kundi ang balabakyo, nga na purong uli ni na translating sentangra na purto bulun na kun margitir balaralin westin na kayo ngon. Kangunin nga na purong uli matan malakabil maram nguni kabulun margitir rambangin yan.
We still appreciate that there's a place now for joining together and entering translation and interpreting and understanding, especially for all of the projects. And so while our language centre is connected with all of those origins, we see that need for continuous work as adults together. One more thing I forgot.
Sorry,
Sorry, you dear people.
Yo, wanga nakon anaprong darok tual grupo na wangarong anapruto makarwapton wangang anapruto burang udara yagang anapruto kanan na mayor ngoro mga kangura.
And so, because our foundational law still exists, and we reach out in translation with the very best attempt, we know that we can never truly reach each other in that attempt. One more thing. The reason we try is for advocacy and assistance. That's why we make the reach. Sorry, I couldn't forget that part.
Ral manapan mirna kujama ral gama gurukui ekawanga into marmai ral manapan aw yung anapurunga ngora ga darok malangundulik ngai kangora na kun grupa na wangarong.
And so part of that gift by the Creator Spirit was a spirit of cooperation and work together. Did you say that?
Well, manapurungal na kun yulungwal ebal nyang ikangora.
You're more all together.
Yo, muni ral manapan minyawe ka gonga na ngara tu makarwap tumbele kuruto rom kuruto ngunele ngai kangora yende meti napurung.
And so the kinship system is the rule for that kind of assistance for us in our work at ARDS. Those rules exist for Yirriṉiṉba to help other Yirriṉiṉba in whatever situations. And so that's the pattern that we copy.
Dole na po na kung Dhurrka and yan na po dole pala ikurupan na malangkoy na kung lidarang na yaka ichola nga yaka nga ito bukun yung mga yatam tano yun muli.
So I really wanted you to hear this again, because I don't want you to underestimate the importance of this point before you go.
Yo, bili darok na imitingon nilingura na kun darok mala. Tuwal bili darok yan yung koro. Jambar pingo diyang balangaringa, jambar pingo dalawang yakarak ko yura.
This language exists for all of us, and even right now I'm speaking Jambatwang, or a different language, in attempting to reach.
Ma, bilin mo kawalo yung yuruktura ma?
And I think we'll leave it there.
Time
has passed. Time's gone.
Yo, sorry about all the Yirriṉiṉba, but like
but this is how we work at workplace.
Yeah, this is how we work at
workplace in our
workplace at the Aboriginal Resource
with our
Development
colleagues
Service.
and work together.
I think this was a professional development exercise for me. So apologies in advance. All of the actual interpreters are gone. I don't have those kind of hours behind me. So thank you for bearing with us.
We can take any questions.
So that toolbox and everything you had up there, that's off that website? You know how you have the toolbox with the words and everything, is that from that website?
No. No, it's not actually in that. In the main arts website now. It's not. I am sort of still working on it. it's going to be a resource that'll be kept in the organization there and be part of a training process for my Marango young people that back at the community. So it's not kept right now. It's not kept in that website. No, it's not now. I've got it down in my own file. Yeah, I'm writing it until I complete it.
Does anybody have any more questions in the group?
I just one question. So you said your language is Marango, but you speak Dhurrka. So when you speak in your own language, as in like meaning of like embedded language, and when you speak your Marango language, you feel some kind of that different when you speak in Marango, when you speak in Dhurrka, and when probably when you speak Dhurrka, which is your language, and when you speak other language, that something.
Well, ngara pingamial, ngara to speaking in any language, ngara language, my kids' language, my husband language, my Maree language, my mother language, my grandfather and my father's grandfather's language. And that's how we born with it. It's in there. It's in the land and also with me.
Some languages that are in Marango, to answer your question, Reverend. Some languages that are in Jambarpengo, referring Jambarpengo to Marango, sort of similar, but there's an extra more that I need to say as a Marango. For example, Tuanja. In Marango, it is Tuanji. There's always a G on Marango. Not always in every language or every whatever, but in a certain language, there's always a G, one G. Marango, Jamarpungo, for she could say one nine, and I could say one G. Now, every language that are being spoken all right across the Eastern region there, there's two Yirriṉiṉba. Each clan group that got their own clan or language, clan language and tribe. Now, for example, me as a Marango person, and I've got this Kumach person talking to me, I can still understand the whole Kumach Daruk. I can still understand the whole Kupapingo Daruk. If I'm speaking Tuanji Marango language to someone who is Rudaching or Tango Miriong or whoever or Wanguri, that person will still understand me, what I'm talking about. For example, I'll put it this way. Me, as a Marango person, one individual, and there's about how many languages are there spoken across the whole Eastern region there, about 15. Yeah, 15 or 16. I don't speak it, but I understand all of it. I can sort of say, I can answer whatever. If they want to say in their own language, I'll understand it and I'll answer that in my own language, or I could just answer that in the main common language that are being spoken right now, right across, which is her language, the Jambarpungo. Every child that is being raised now across the Eastern region, they are coming to this one particular language, the common language, which is the Jambar Pumo. Yo. Yo.
Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, one language right now. One language are being spoken right across. Every children that are coming up, new children that are coming up, the first language that they get is Jambar Pumo. That's from Ramangani, Melengrimbiga, Poyak, right up to Yirriṉiṉba, and it's a bit different. They are Duaya, but we still, communicate. We still understand each other. Yeah.
All right. Any more questions? Don't ask too many questions. Okay. Thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of the day. It's been a good day. I hope everybody's got something out of it and met other people that they can get some stuff from. I want to thank Katrina Britnell, Melissa Royal for helping the group get organised today. Thank you all for coming, and maybe we'll do it again soon.
So for those that are interested, as we mentioned, it's being recorded. Everyone that registered via email or Eventbrite, I've got your email, so I'll be sending you out information once it comes on board. There was also a lot of inquiry people will let know. If for any reason you don't receive it, just check in with the people you know that are here every now and then and just see if they got it. Perhaps for some reason your email may have been left off, but I am going to try to get everybody's. Those that know me, please be happy to email me in and just confirm. And we'll send those, we'll get it up, give us a couple of weeks. I have to wait for IT to do it. So, yes, and then we'll make it available as soon as we can. No worries. Oh, and keep your ears out. Those of you that haven't ever gone onto the Northern Institute's newsletter, we'll be doing another language symposium for NAIDOC week that we're just starting to put together now. So sign up for the Northern Institute's newsletter and we'll be able to keep you abreast of that.